Hytale's World Gen V2 blog post has been delayed. All 4 zones have been renamed, Hytale's Blockbench plugin has been created and released, and I now have a creator code. It's amazing how much Hytale news can build up after I don't make a video for a whole week. So yeah, the highly anticipated World Gen blog post will not be coming out in early December like Simon had originally said, but it isn't all bad, as Thomas Frick made a post where they released their Blockbench plugin to the public and spoke a little about Hytale's art style. My main takeaways from this post, as someone with absolutely zero artistic ability, is that furniture and mobs will cause a lot of lag if they're clustered together, big surprise, and this magma golem that isn't explicitly stated to be a vanilla Hytale mob, but probably is pretty darn cool. If you want to make some models for yourself, I'd recommend reading the blog post in depth on your own. There's also a bunch of news before this blog post, with a handful of screenshots from Hytale, including a Happy Holidays postcard and this house castle build that was recreated by Cypress and Chaser in Minecraft. You should check their video about that out. Hytale also revealed a model importing tool, which was used to make a huge Quebec statue. We will be able to import any models we like using it, which means that I can import my race car into the game. Qatar even used this feature to import the entirety of New York City into Hytale, with 20 million blocks in total. Simon later posted a video of him using this model to import a huge spaceship, which seems to have loaded remarkably quickly, and he joked that now all he had to do is decorate the interior and paint the thing. Simon had some unfortunate news for us all, mentioning that fire spread is not a feature in Hytale. Yet. How are we supposed to burn down Quebec villages now? Jokes aside, I think fire spread is actually a fairly important feature for Hytale, because burning things is super cinematic and fun. Hopefully, eventually, we will be able to light arrows on fire and use them to start fires from a distance, as that's something that I've always wanted to be possible in Minecraft. I also asked Budacat how many emails he had for creator program applications, which is apparently quite a lot, so much that they actually sent me an email saying that they were no longer accepting applications through emails and that you had to go onto their support website and submit a ticket requesting a code there. This thread was also used by several creators, myself included, to bump our emails to the front of the line. After a few days of waiting, I can happily say you can now use code MUFFIN when purchasing Hytale to directly support me. That's MUFFIN, all lowercase, although I don't know if cases matter. I'm sure most of you have already pre-ordered the game, but if you hadn't, I would be absolutely stoked if you supported me. I'll just get a little kickback from your sale at no cost to yourself. Max support on January 13th is unlikely to be confirmed before the new year due to Apple's approval process. This does make it seem like Hytale is working fairly well technically for Mac, which is very encouraging, so we'll just have to see if Apple can get it approved in time for release. A prototype of Hytale's proximity chat is working in-game. I'm super hyped for this feature and have a video planned about it, so subscribe for that and all my other upcoming content, which hopefully will be a lot now that I'm on winter break and off of school. Hytale's difficulty was a huge topic of conversation this week, with my main takeaway being that too many people just want a Minecraft 2 rather than a unique and different game. Currently Hytale only has one difficulty mode, but will eventually have more. Simon was then slightly misquoted, and someone said that Hytale would eventually have a peaceful mode, which is false, as hostile mobs are core to Hytale's gameplay. At most, they will eventually be trivial to defeat, but never fully removed. Important crafting items are tied to hostile mob drops, which means that removing hostile creatures altogether isn't an option. Simon reminded us that Hytale is not Minecraft, going on to say again that they're planning dungeons, boss fights, quests, and more that involve hostile creatures, and again, Hytale is not Minecraft. Another user made a 3-part tweet, with the first being that Hytale isn't meant to be an RPG. Are you sure about that? From the Hytale website. What is Hytale? Hytale blends the freedom of a sandbox with the momentum of an RPG. So yeah, Hytale definitely is an RPG. He also said dungeons should be the last priority. Simon said that core gameplay and a living world will come first, but this whole debacle has me very confused. I thought that the reason everyone was excited for Hytale was because it was more RPG and story-based than Minecraft. Fundamentally, past the block building, the games are different genres. Like, in my mind, Hytale's kind of a cross between Zelda Breath of the Wild and Minecraft, which is supported by the tons of lore and story art we've already been shown. If players want a sandbox experience with no mobs, Minecraft exists for that already. Unless you're a game journalist, you're not going to play, say, Zelda with the mobs turned off, because that fundamentally undermines the core of the game. And the same is true for Hytale. I don't know, this whole thing has me very confused, and I already think that the audience paying attention to Hytale has widely differing understandings of what the game is meant to be, from exactly a Minecraft 2 to a full-blown RPG. I've heard people advertising Hytale as great for people who hate Minecraft, which is obviously ridiculous, and people calling it Minecraft 2. A lot of people are going to be disappointed no matter what, but do you think Hytale should have a peaceful mode? Let me know in the comments. Here's a feature that I'm super excited for: recording gameplay sessions with the Machinima tool, like the Minecraft replay mod. Unfortunately, this is only in the roadmap for the tail end of early access, but Machinima tools will be getting features which build a foundation for replays in the next few months. Cutscenes are also probably coming to Hytale within a few months of launch, which is very characteristic of a RPG. Sorry, it must have been the wind. Hytale's progression is linked to crafting stations, and you will be able to upgrade these to unlock new recipes. I'm surprisingly curious about how crafting works now, because Simon has made it seem quite interesting. Maybe it is just a straightforward, here's a crafting recipe, you make a better table, bam, but I have hopes for great things to do with that progression. Hytale's zone names were adjusted, with zones 2 and 4 still being the Howling Sands and the Devastated Lands, but zone 1 has been renamed to the Emerald Wilds to reflect the fact that the whole zone is not a grove, and zone's 3 name has been changed entirely to the Whisperfrost Frontiers, which I really love. Unfortunately, Zone 3's name change has not been received well by the community, but like, come on fellas, Whisperfrost is so much better than Borea, and suggests fantastical vibes. Seeing a message saying you've entered the Whisperfrost Frontier is going to be way more whimsical for new players than, you've entered Borea. Speaking of, they actually do have banner messages when you discover new regions, which have the region name and zone name. We get a glimpse of the Boreal Reach in Whisperfrost, starring a sleepy grizzly bear, the frozen coasts again in Whisperfrost, the drifting plains in the Emerald Wilds with a spider and some sort of prefab, and the Devastated Lands Basalt Peninsula. Simon mentioned that the Emerald Wilds, Howling Sands, and Whisperfrost Frontiers all have 3 regions, and the Devastated Lands has 2 currently. Regions are a bundle of biomes just like they were previously, so I am curious if regions have always been a thing in Hytale, or if Simon's teams decided to bring them back for some reason within the last couple months. Simon mentioned that regions represent tiers of difficulty within zones, although currently the difficulty change isn't very large. Average gear will be enough to survive in any region, but more dangerous areas like Outlander fortresses will begin to punish you if your gear sucks. Speaking about the Zone 3 backlash, Simon said that they are not planning to please everyone because that would make a boring game. And again, Hytale is not Minecraft. Endgame content is not a thing in Hytale for release, but there is a working concept in-game which will be added to and released after launch in a big game drop. Mod packs will eventually be a feature of Hytale under the name bundles, although I imagine that they won't be implemented in any way until mod browsers are moved into Hytale, where they will fit a lot better. Now that my finals are over, I have a ton of time to make videos. In theory, in practice that doesn't seem to be the case. I've got a couple in the making already, including a proximity chat video, 2 combat videos, and some lore stuff. If any of those sound particularly interesting to you, let me know in the comments, and sub to my channel to see them right when they drop. And until they do, use code Muffin and stay hypey.